So, thick blended smoothie. We're going to practice different rhythms, different arm levels. So you're going to skip strings. Last exercise we just went from one string to the next. This time you're going to learn how to skip a string. So go from A string to the G or D to the C. And then we're mixing and matching all those melodies, rhythms, the counting. So here we go with thick blended smoothie. It starts on a C. So you're going to place your bow, do your position, take your deep breath, relax everything, and you don't have to worry about your hand. You're just doing open strings. So here we go with the down bow on the C. Then roll your arm up and go up bow on the D. Roll your arm to the A. And I'm pausing on each one for your practice. Roll. So your roll is silent. Then long bow, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Then roll your bow. 2. So when you first start practicing this one, it's not going to sound, it will never sound great because it's not really a piece, it's more an exercise. So you will sound kind of rough and it will sound, maybe some scratches will happen. So what you want to go back and go, okay, was that scratch because I had too much weight or not enough speed? What was that? Now, let me give you the technique for, without pausing, getting that roll. So that roll is going to happen pretty fast. So it's 1, 2, 4. So you're learning how your cello speaks and what notes you have to nudge a little bit more and which ones you can be a little more relaxed on to still get that same tone. So your exercise with this thick blended smoothie is to get all of these different either half notes, whole notes, quarter notes if you look at the second two lines. Down here we go into the C's and D's and A's in order to get your quarter notes back and forth. For right now, on a quarter note, you use just a little bit of bow. If the other note before it ended on an up bow and you're right here, you can do your quarter note up here too. So we're going to learn about recapturing the bow, planning ahead. So if you have a long bow, you don't want to end up right here to do that 4 counts. You want to make sure the note before you plan ahead, and then you have your full bow ready for that note. So these are all exercises for your bow. I want to do a little bit with your bow hold again, making sure that you have your fingers round and over the edge. I want to do one small exercise, and that is to hold your bow with your left hand, keep your bow hold, but I want you to pretend that the edge of the bow right here is a cliff. And you've kind of come along and you've fallen off the cliff and you're hanging on. Some people will play with their bow really high and their wrist really high. I want you to be careful about doing that and think about the hand being behind the bow, because the strength that you have of falling off of a cliff and hanging on with the tips of your fingers on the edge of a cliff is a lot stronger than being there and pushing on it. So I want to make sure that your hand is behind the bow, and that hand, just the weight of your arm is enough to give the bow enough to pull a good sound. If you're not getting a good sound out of your bow, it could be rosin. And we haven't talked about rosin, and we will. Hopefully at your rental they talked about rosin a little bit. But after about every 2 hours of practicing, you'll want to put some rosin on it. So next video comes the rosin. So this needs to be very attached and behind the bow, not on top. You don't want your hand up on top, you want it behind, which also pulls the stick just slightly above the hair. It depends upon what style of music you're playing and what sound, tone-wise you want to get out of the instrument. But for right now, you can play a little bit above. That also helps your bow go into the cello rather than sliding off. It's very rare that you'll actually play this way. It's usually high stick or flat. The hair, sometimes you'll play with just a few of your hairs. Sometimes you'll play with a really flat hair, and that gives you a real robust, thick sound. And sometimes you play with 3/4 of your hair. So those are all things that you get to learn as you get better and better at the bow. Not something you need to worry about now. Right now, what you're worried or thinking about practicing is doing your bow pulls, your arm level, making sure this is flat, making sure your fingers are relaxed but attached to the bow. Don't use any more muscle in this bow than what you have to. So set it on the string and then relax everything. Doesn't take much to hold that bow in place. And then you're working on tone. If you get this sound, you're not using enough weight or maybe too fast. If you're getting this, you're using too much and not enough speed. And you have to get the whole string. You can get that C string and G string. You need to nudge them a little bit to get them going. And if your bow can't do that, there might be a rosin issue. So we'll watch a video on rosining your bow as well. I hope that's helpful for today. The next video will be your done and dusted video for page 5.